while you were at Atlanta, you used data for the recruitment of a head coach, and also you came up with a player grading system. Are you able to share anything around either of those topics?
Yeah, of course. So the kind of player grading system, I think that's quite kind of becoming quite standard in clubs now, where as a club, you obviously know your exact style of play, your principles of play, and as a result, you should be able to generate positional profiles from that. And then within each positional profile, I think you then know the parameters that you think are important for that position from a statistical point of view, and you can then use those to actually build out a kind of one metric number. Maybe you take 10 or 15 KPIs and you get to an end goal, and obviously you can weight those KPIs all differently, all kind of common kind of place things now in analysis, and it allows you to really identify and focus on players who are relevant to your playing style in your team, which many data providers can't provide because they're a generic tool. They have to just be generic to be able for every club in the world to be able to use. And this is where I almost come back to what I said in terms of data analysis and your interpretation of the data being important, because what is an important stat or an important number for one club may not be for another club based on their philosophies. So we really built out a system at Atlanta where we were able to identify players that really specifically fit our profile and playing style. And that was really important. And then in terms of the head coach, yeah, I think that's becoming a little bit more commonplace now as well. Really using data to identify. I think for us, it was really around styles of play. And again, we were very clear. We had a very strong identity in terms of what our playing style and philosophy was. And we wanted to recruit a coach that would fit in with that. So we used data in that way, but also to assess other things like their contribution or how they kind of brought young players into first team football and the kind of minutes that young players would get and how they would manage that. So we used it in that way as well, which again, at the time, I think you're talking, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, was probably relatively new at that time. But I think now there are some really sophisticated systems and platforms that allow you and really can contribute to you in your kind of head coach search.
Yeah.
Using data. Yeah, it's impressive. Some of the stuff I've seen recently has been really impressive, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's because it just doesn't really make sense, does it, when a new coach comes in and then it's kind of all changed. They're not the same kind of coach that they were previously. So it does make sense to kind of have a club philosophy, and then the coach can slot in and it kind of fits nicer together. So that's really interesting. So you
For me,
were,
that's the most important part. Like for me,
yeah.
if you don't have that club identity and philosophy, and you just change coach and have a different playing style every year,
Hmm.
how do you scout players?
Yeah.
How do you scout players for next year when you're going to have a different head coach who has a different playing style and philosophy? So it drives your whole process. It
Yeah.
drives your whole process, or it should.
Yeah. And just obviously in the recruitment side, when you said, one stat for one team might be beneficial to them, but not to another, but also then, just because one player is producing them stats in that team over there, it doesn't mean he's going to replicate in your team. Because again, it's just, there's lots of variables to think about. And obviously data helps to make the decisions a little bit more informed. So